Vandami Bante and good morning everyone. Good evening everyone in the Western Hemisphere. Welcome to today's lesson on lesson 26, the process of mentality. I am Tiong. I am the meeting co-host who will be helping Bante and everyone in today's session. May we invite Bante to start the teaching, please? Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
Good morning, everybody. Let's start our Abhidhamma study for lesson 26. I'm paying Humi Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Welcome to Abhidhamma class lesson 26. And today's lesson is the process of mentality. So in former lessons, we have already studied about the consciousness and mental factors as mentioned in the Abhidhamma Sangaha. Based on the comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma by Bhikkhu Bodhi Sayadaw and Sayadaw Usilananda Biwansa. So this lesson 26 will be the final part of the second chapter, which is the Cetasika Sangaha of Abhidhamma Sangaha. We already finished the enumeration of mental factors and association of mental factor, which is called Sampayoga Neya, and the combination of mental factor, which is called Sangaha Neya in Pali. Now today, I would like to explain again about the process of mentality. And this one already introduced during the study of rootless consciousness in Untitled Chapter. When we study rootless consciousness, the rootless consciousness quite complicated because it consists of different types of consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, etc. And the other unwholesome, for the unwholesome consciousness, based on the roots, the classification quite clear. So Loba, Dosa, Moha. So Loba Mula, Dosa Mula, and Moha Mula. For the beautiful consciousness, it comes only 3 divisions of wholesome, resultant, functional. In this way, the other consciousness are quite clear in classification. But for the rootless consciousness, it is not easy to understand if we don't study about the process of mentality, Chitta Vitti. Now again, we are going to talk about the process of mentality. After studying Chitta and Cittasika, so among the 4 ultimate reality, Chitta, Cittasika, Rupa, and Nibbana. The Rupa is materiality, and the other are mentalities. And Nibbana is out of the conditional reality. So among the conditional reality, we already studied the Nama side. So the Nama refers to consciousness and mental factor. So after understanding the consciousness and mental factors separately, we need to know how they arise. So here, in this lesson, we will study about the process of mentality and also the mixture of two methods of association and combination about the consciousness and mental factor. And that is introduced by Venerable Sādhu Visuddharama Sādhu, who is very famous in Abhidhamma and other Pali and Buddhism in Myanmar. So Sādhu Usilananda Bhiwansa also wrote this method and about this Sādhu Visuddharama Sādhu in his handbook of Abhidhamma study. So let's study our lesson 26. So here I would like to remind you the lesson 22nd. We already studied the combination. So here Sambhyoga and Sangahaneya. So Chittasika Chitta, because we take the Chittasika and then find the Chitta, the associated Chitta. That's why Sambhyoga Neya is called Chitta Chittasika Neya. And for the Sangahaneya, we take the consciousness first and then find the associated mental factor. That's why it is Sangahaneya. So according to the Venerable Bhikkhu body, association of mental factors and combination of mental factors. Let's just review and to keep in mind before we continue to the mixture method. If you can understand these two methods properly, and then the mixture method make you more understanding, make you to understand more and more about the mentalities. And if you cannot understand two methods, mixture method will make you confusion. So 16 Neya, Inya Samana, Akusala, and Sopana based on the classification of Chittasika, and Sangahaneya based on the classification of Chitta. So Laguttara, Mahakata, Kamavajra, Sovana, etc. This is the two Neya we already studied. Then here, this also come in lesson 22. Anya Samana Chittasika, Akusala, and Sovana Chittasika according to their group. So they have the specific group. The Anya Samana, among the Anya Samana group, 7 universal, all associated with 89 consciousness. And the other 6 occasional in appropriate way. In the consciousness, rootless consciousness, you have to be careful about the rootless consciousness. In the Chittasika, you have to be careful about the occasional, Pakinaka Chittasika, because they make difficulty in study. Then the other Akusala, so 14 unwholesome, but the Anyasamana will follow accordingly. Then Sovana Chittasika, they associate with only with the Sovana beautiful mental factors, Sovana Chittasika. This is basics information. Then from the side of the consciousness, so Lokuttara, here Lokuttara, Anyasamana 13 and the Abhamanya, except Abhamanya, because Abhamanya, we already said that Abhamanya take the beings, the concept of beings as their objects. And Lokuttara take Lokuttara or Lokuttara Chitta take Nibbana as their objects. So they have the different objects. They cannot arise together. Only 36 consciousness, 36 mental factors can associate with Lokuttara Chitta. Then for the Mahagata, sublime consciousness, Anya Samana, here is Virati, or the beautiful, because the Virati take the object of the transgression as their object. And beautiful feathers, among the Mahagata Chitta, they have the specific consciousness, the specific objects when they arise. Most of them are concept of Patibhaga Nimitta. And in the Arupa Chitta, two of the Arupa Chitta takes the Mahagata, the consciousness itself, the previous consciousness. Then, okay, so Kama Vajara Sobhana. Here, this is the utmost numbers they can rise. So Anya Samana 13 and beautiful 25. In the wholesome consciousness, it can arise all the complete set, but they are not arising all 38. But this is the utmost number, utmost enumeration. The Abhamanya and Virati, the 5 mental fetters have the nature of arising separately. When they arise separately. So we already counted in detailed study of the Sanghahaneya. Then Akusala Chitta. For the Akusala Chitta, only the Anya Samana 13 and Ahusan fetters 40 altogether 27 at most. So Ahituka, for the Ahituka, only the 12 mental fetter is Chanda. So here, if you think about the consciousness, a group of consciousness, you must be able to find how many mental fetters. If you understand 2 methods properly, and if you can keep this information in your mind, so in Abhidhamma study, you need to keep many information in your mind. That's why in our traditional study, traditional approach, we try to memorize many things, including text. So memorization of the text is very helpful when to recall the information in the Abhidhamma. For example, here we talk about the group or Akusala, and we already count how many mental fetters associate with each consciousness, each unwholesome consciousness in the Sanghahaneya, Akusala Sangha, Sanghahaneya of the Akusala Chitta. And that is this separate enumeration. If we talk about the Lova Mula, for each Lova Mula, this method is used in the Alankara examination in our traditional study. So in Alankara examination, we cannot identify, sometimes when we study the Pali Canon and commentary, we cannot identify the specific consciousness because the situation is described in general expression. For example, a person is stealing. So the stealing, just the events is described in general way. That person stealing. So stealing can cause how many consciousness we need to consider. Then if we get, okay, by the Lova Mula, there are also 8 consciousness. How many, which one can be at that moment? We cannot identify. All can be possible. So at that time, we take it can be one of the 8 greed-rooted consciousness. So we show the ultimate reality. We identify ultimate reality in that way. Then, what are the accompaniment fetters? At that moment, we need to count everything in impossible way. So except the Vichikicha and Dosa Mula, Dosa is Amachariya, so except 5. The other 22 can be possible. Or like this, we count in that way. We find the ultimate reality of mental factors when we get the group of consciousness. That is why that is the understanding the Sambayoga Neya and Sangaha Neya. And also, when we count, when we get the ultimate reality of mental factors in the description, in the Pali Canon, then we need to find what kind of consciousness or how many consciousness can arise, or which consciousness must be. We need to consider according to the condition. That is why the studying the 2 methods are very helpful for the understanding of the Pali Canon commentary, and also to identify the ultimate reality arising in our daily life too. Okay, so here, for more understanding, Venerable Sayadaw Visuddharama Sayadaw introduced this method of mixture of 2 methods. Here I make my explanation from the Passa. So according to the order of the mental factors, here Passa contact, you already know that. So here Passa, all 89 citta, because Passa is one of the universal mental factors. So it can associate with all 89 consciousness. So the 89 consciousness can arise with 52 mental factors. In this way, we can find the change of the chain of the ultimate reality. So Passa can arise 89 consciousness. 89 consciousness can arise with 52 mental factors. But Passa can arise 89 consciousness and other 51 mental factors, because Passa cannot arise itself together. So because we cannot say, I come with me or like this. So I come with my friend or someone else. So it's a Passa, the other 51 mental factor can associate with Passa. In this way, we can find the associated consciousness and also associated mental factor of any mental factors. So this method is not explained in the Abhidhamma Sangha test, but this is very helpful. Very helpful. That is why Venerable Visuddharama Sayadaw introduced for his disciple. Then, if you can understand Passa in this way, Passa can arise with 89 consciousness and 51 mental factor except Passa. Then Vedana, Sanya, Chirana, Ikakata, Jivitendriya, Manasikara, all other universal factors have the same method. So they can arise with 89 consciousness and 51 mental factor except themselves. So for Vedana, except Vedana, like this. Then let's continue to the occasional mental factors. Here we take our initial application. It associates with 55 consciousness. There in 55 consciousness, it consists of unwholesome, wholesome, resultant, functional, like this. So if you can recall, what are the 55? So among the sense pure consciousness, only the Dvipanja Vijnana are exception, 44, and first jhana 11. So that group is the mixture of unwholesome, wholesome, functional. That's why this 55 consciousness can arise 52 mental factors. If you check there, Lobha Mula, Dosa Mula, Moha Mula all contains. That's why no exception in the unwholesome. And also for the beautiful mental factors, it consists of the wholesome consciousness which can associate with all 25 beautiful. That's why there's no exception in the mental factors, but Vitaka itself. So Vitaka also 51 mental factor. So in the same way, Vichara, here Vichara 66 Chitta, and for the mental factor, 51 mental factor except Vichara itself. Then a Adhimokha. So a Adhimokha can arise with 78 Chitta. There, Vichikicca Sahagata is exception. So the mental factors of doubt, Vichikicca, it can arise only with the Vichikicca Sahagata. That is dissociated from a Adhimokha. That is why only 51 except Vichikicca. And if we take up itself, a Adhimokha itself, it becomes the 50 mental factors. 50 mental factors for a Adhimokha. In this way, we can continue. And here I wrote already for all mental factors to have you in your study. But in our books, system books, even in the handbooks of Abhidhamma study, it does not write all for all mental factors. So here, Viriya energy arises with 73. So there's 73 all associated with 52, and Viriya, if we take out Viriya, 51. Then for the PT is 51 consciousness and 47 mental factors. Because PT does not associate with the Dosa Mula Chitta. That is why Dosa is Samachariya Kukucha, they cannot associate with the 51 consciousness. And also in this 51 consciousness, there's no Vichikicca Sahagata, because it is Vichikicca Sahagata is Upekha Sahagata. So PT dissociate from Upekha Sahagata, from all types of Upekha Sahagata. That's why Vichikicca exception and PT itself. So altogether 6 exception. 6 are exception. Then it should be here. It should be 46 because 6 are exception. Then Chanda 69 Chitta. 69 Chitta associated with 51 mental factor except Vichikicca, because Vichikicca is Moha Mula. Chanda does not associate with Moha Mula consciousness here in 62. 69 Moha Mula Chitta is not there. So itself Chanda, altogether 50 mental factors can arise with Chanda. So for the consciousness, you can recall the combination of mental factors Sanghahaneya. Here, just to understand, just to think about the associated mental factors. Okay, so the mixture method of akusala. Here, moha is one of the unwholesome universal factors. So it associates with all 12 akusala chitta and 27 mental factors. If we take out the moha, it's 26. Then lobha mula, lobha greed arise with only lobha mula chitta. So 22 lobha mula chitta arise with 22 mental factors. If we take out it's all the 21. So altogether exception are 6, because 27. Among the 27, 22 can associate with the Loba Mula Chitta. So Dosa, Isa, Machariya, Kukucha, Ujjaka, Vichikicha, and Greek Itsa. Then Detti. Detti arises with the Detti Gata Samputa Chitta. 21 mental factors. 21 mental factors. So if we take out Detti Itsa, it becomes 20. Then 7 are exception because Dosa Mula, it does not associate with Dosa Mula Chitta, Dosa Icha, Machariya, Kukucha, and does not associate with the Vichikicha. So Vichikicha and Mana, because this is the reason why when Detti is arising, Mana cannot arise, because the Mana just arise in Detti Gata with Piyuta. So Mana also become exception, and also Detti itself. So 7 become exception. Then for the Mana, the same method. So instead of Mana, it become the Detti is exception. Then Mana, including Mana, 7, the same number. Then Moha, for the Moha, Ahirika and Notaba Odecha, they are in the same group of the universe, unwholesome universal factors. That is why they also have the same method with Moha, 26. And for the Dosa Mula group, Dosa associated with the Dosa Mula, 2 Dosa Mula Chitta, and Dosa Mula Chitta can arise the 22 mental factors. 22 mental factors except the PT, is a PT starting from PT and Lower Detti Mana, and Vichikicha. Vichikicha only arises with the Vichikicha Sahagata itself, and Dosa itself. So altogether, 21 mental factor can associate with Dosa. So Isa also arises with Dosa Mula Chitta, but Isa have the other accompanying mental factors, and those have the nature of arising separately. So Machariya and Kukucha. If we remove the Machariya and Kukucha, because they cannot arise at the same time with Isa, but Dosa can arise with Isa. But Machariya and Kukucha, they cannot arise with Isa. We already discussed this in the Sambhyoga Neya. So only 19. Although Dosa Mula Chitta the same with the Dosa, and here 22 mental factors. Then remove Machariya, Kukucha, and Isa itself. So 3 mental factors are removed. So 19. So the exception are 6 PD, because same as the PD does not associate with Dosa Mula. And Lower Detti Mana, because they have the different group, different nature. And Vichikicha. Then here, this must be Dosa must not be exception. Here, Isa itself. We need to make the correction here, Isa. Then Machariya, Kukucha have the same method. So when we take off the Machariya, it associates with the 2 Dosa Mula Chitta and 22 mental factors. But when we remove the occasional, or I want to say the unfixed agents. So here for the Machariya, Isa and Kukucha cannot arise together. That's why only 19 mental factors can arise. So PT, Loba, Detti, Mana, Vichikicha, and Machariya itself. Then Kukucha same. So each can arise with only 19 mental factors. Then Tina slots arise with the 5 Sasankharika Chitta. 5 Sasankharika Chitta contain the 4 greed-rooted consciousness and 1 hatred-rooted consciousness. So 26 mental factors except Vichikicha. And if we take off Tina itself, the Vichikicha and Tina, so altogether 25 mental factor can arise with Tina, and Meta also the same method. Then Vichikicha, so Vichikicha, it arises with only Vichikicca Sahagata, one of the delusion rooted consciousness, associate 15 mental fetters, and if we take out its and here a Dimokha has the different nature of the Vichikicca. And PT, because the Vichikicca is Upekha Sahagata, Chanda, because the Vichikicca is Mohamula. Then Lobha Deti Mana, different group. Dosa is Amachariya Kukucha, also different group. And Tina Mita, because it's not mentioned about the prompt or unprompt method. So Tina Mita also exception, and Vichikicca exception. So exception become 13. So only 14 mental fetter can arise with the Vichikicca. So this quite complicated if you cannot understand the association and combination method. But you don't need to worry if you interested in the studying the ultimate reality, how they arise, and then how they associate each other, and then you can use this method. Otherwise, two method is okay. And Saddha, for the beautiful mental fetter, Saddha associate with the 59 Sovana Chitta, beautiful consciousness. They associate with the 38 mental fetters, because all beautiful mental fetter does not associate with the unwholesome group, unwholesome mental fetters. So if we take out Sattva, 37. All other universal beautiful mental fetter have the same method. So Sati also the same, and 59 consciousness and 37 mental fetter, Hiri, Ottaba, same, etc. Then for the abstrainess group, Sammawacha, right speech, 16 Chitta, so 38 mental fetter. 16 Chitta is the great wholesome age and supramundane age altogether 16. So 38, because the great wholesome is the larger, more members of mental fetters. So 38 mental fetter. If we take up from the 38, Sammawacha, it's and also the other two, and two Appamanya. So among the 38, when Sammawacha arise, the Appamanya cannot arise at the same time. So because the Virati and Appamanya have the different nature, that is why if we take out Appamanya, two Appamanya, altogether 35 consciousness. This is a reference to the great consciousness, great wholesome consciousness, referring to the supramundane consciousness, because at the moment of supramundane consciousness, all the Samma Vacha, Samma Kamanda, Samma Ajiva, three Virati can arise at the same time. So if we refer to the great wholesome consciousness, they also arise separately. When Samma Vacha arise, the other two cannot arise. So referring to the great wholesome consciousness, we need to take out two more of Samma Kamanta and Samma Ajiva. That's why if we refer to the great wholesome consciousness, it will be only 33. So the same method, Samma Kamanta and Samma Ajiva. Then Abhamanya, Karuna and Mudita. Karuna and Mudita. So compassion can arise with the 28 consciousness. You may remember the 8 great wholesome, 8 great functional, and the former 4th jhana up to the 4th jhana, 12. Altogether 28 citta arise with Karuna. Then 38 mental fetters, because there is great wholesome consciousness there. So 38 mental fetters. If we take out the Karuna, it's and also at the time of the compassion, the appreciated joint Mudita cannot arise at the same time. That's why Mudita also become exception. And 3 Virati, they have the different nature. So altogether, 5 mental factors are exception. So 33 mental factors can arise with karuna. And mudita also the same method. Then panya, wisdom faculty. Wisdom faculty can arise the 59 sobhana citta. Oh, sorry, it should be 47. Sorry, here 47 jnana sampyutta. 47 jnana sampyutta. It should be. We need to make correction here. But the other for the mental factor case, it same as the satta. Same as satta. So 38 mental factor for the 47 jnana sampyutta. So if we take out Isa, it becomes the 37. So here, same as satta refers to the mental factor side. So I thought the all the same, totally same, but it just different in the consciousness. So panya, wisdom faculty, can arise with the 47 jnana sampyutta and 37 mental factor is itself. So now we finish the mixture method. Mixture method is that one introduced by the Prinabaya Visuddharama Sayadaw and very helpful if you apply the Abhidhamma understanding in your daily life, and then if you know, if you aware any of the consciousness of any of the mental factor arising in your mind, and you can identify the associated mental factor for consciousness. And for the mental factors, you can identify the associated consciousness and also accompanying mental factors by using these 3 methods of Sampayoga, Neya, Sangaha Neya, and Mixture method. Misaka Neya, it is called in Pali Misaka Neya. Okay, let's continue to the process of mentality and the group of mentality. When the mentality arises, they are not arising separately, and they also arise in grouping. So with the consciousness in mental factor in this way. So this is the general description for the akusala citta. So unwholesome consciousness 12. If we, for some case, we cannot identify as this one is due to the lobha or dosa or moha. We know this is unwholesome. At that moment, we refer to the 12 unwholesome consciousness. Akusalang kroti, like this. Akusalang kroti. So akusalang katawa have been done in unwholesome and reborn in the miserable state, like this. At that moment, we can identify the 12 unwholesome citta. Now, how many mental factors were associated with 12? So 27 altogether. Then there, if we could identify dosa mula citta arise, at that moment, 3 greed, wrong view, and conceit, they cannot accompany, they cannot associate at that moment. And also doubt. Then if dosa mula is present, there is no piti. So zest also will be absent. In this way, we can remove from the groove. We can remove the some dissociated mental factors. And this is the general description. So they arise in the group. This will be any of unwholesome consciousness. Depends on the types of the consciousness, we will remove the mental factors. Okay, this is from lesson 25. So in order to review all the mental factors related to the specific consciousness. So just to review according to the classification of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth prompt. 5 prompt, unprompted consciousness, asankharika first. And here, so if we can identify someone So for the case of the stealing, he steal happily with joy. The feeling is joy. And taking round view, holding round view, this is not wrong. I'm not doing wrong. I'm doing my right like this. So that is round view. And he is doing in very active way. So unprompt. At that moment, we can identify the first unprompt consciousness is arising in his mind. So we can find the mental factors. 19 mental factors will accompany that consciousness with that consciousness. In the same way, if we could identify the other consciousness, also we can find for the associated mental factor in precise way. So to understand the process of mentality, you need to keep all the information of the combination method. And here, same as the asankarika, only the difference is slot and topos are precedent. Then for the delusion-rooted consciousness, the Uddhacca Sahagata and Vicikicca Sahagata each associate with 15 mental factors, but they have a different counting. This already studied in the lesson 25, but I just want you to keep in mind the information so that we could properly understand the unwholesome consciousness, the mental process of unwholesome consciousness. So here also the general description of Ahitukacita, all the other unwholesome mental factors are removed, and also desire, because the desire chanda does not associate with rootless consciousness. So the enumeration is anyasamana is a chanda. So when any of the rootless consciousness, a few mental factors, a little mental factors accompany, compared to the unwholesome group and compared to the beautiful group. And so here divided into four, you can understand how they arise. And for example, for the consciousness of the second group, if we take off the Manodara Vachana, at that moment, Chanda and Piti will be exception. So only 11 mental factors associated with the Manodara Vachana. That's why in the group of mentality also, Chanda and Piti will be absent. So in the same way, that we can continue for the beautiful consciousness. If we get any of the beautiful consciousness of the group of beautiful consciousness, we just need to consider how many mental factors can associate with the beautiful consciousness. Then here, the universal beautiful factor will always accompany two, always associate with all types of beautiful consciousness. Then abstract, illimitable, and wisdom faculty, they become occasional to the beautiful consciousness. Sometimes they associate and sometimes they dissociate. Then for all beautiful consciousness, we get only 38, except the unwholesome group. Okay, so great wholesome, they have the different enumeration, great wholesome and great resultant and great functional. Depends on the associated mental factors. Okay, then for the great wholesome also, according to the couplet, first couplet is because the asankarika and sasankarika does not have any difference. They are counted in the group. Okay, so second one, except jnana, like this. And the third couplet, upekha sahagata, due to because they are upekha sahagata, piti. And the fourth, and jnana and piti and jnana, because upekha sahagata and jnana vidyuta. In the same way, so we already know the specific mental factors for each consciousness. Then understanding or being able to keep all the information about two methods we will approach here. Okay, these are the sublime consciousness and also Lokuttara consciousness. Then we will continue to the process of mentality. They are the points in this lesson. Okay, this is from lesson 9. In this slide, I mentioned that the process of mentality in the samsara, not only in this slide. So here, the death moment, the first one or death moment is in past life. And this life, our present life step from the rebirth linking consciousness of this life. Then it ends in death consciousness of this life. During lifetime, the life continuum, bhavanga, arise. Sometimes, if we have improper intention and the object of unwholesome consciousness, taking the object with the improper intention, ayonisomanasicara, the akusala arise, and sometimes kusala arise. And then, if there is no specific cognitive process or active process, at that moment the bhavanga arise, then the functional consciousness also arising in the process. When the wholesome consciousness arises just before the wholesome consciousness, or just after the wholesome consciousness, the functional consciousness and resultant consciousness also arising. But for the arhat person, the functional consciousness arises instead of wholesome. So unwholesome never arises in the arhat's mind up to his death. So in this way, our process of mentality is arising. Then if we have future life to be reborn, and the rebirth linking consciousness of the future life will start just after that moment of this life. In this way, the mentality is continuing. So among the mentality here, we show only the spot, the small one, but each contain the consciousness and group of mental factors, consciousness and group of mental factors in each. So let's see how we will enlarge the small one. Yeah, okay. This also from lesson 9 already mentioned that how the unwholesome jhana, the process of unwholesome jhana arise in the I consciousness, in the process of I consciousness. So here bhavanga, and after arrest bhavanga, then the 5-door abiding consciousness arise. At that moment, how many mental factors accompanies? Now you can update your understanding here. So in lesson 9, you cannot find the associated mental factors. You just know the 5-door abiding consciousness arise. In this point. Then now, after studying the association of mental factor and combination of mental factors, this is not just arising the consciousness. In this very moment, mental factors are arising. So which group? A reference to the Ahituka, the combination of Ahituka consciousness. So how many mental factors can arise with the 5-dot abiding consciousness? You can recall this 5-dot abiding consciousness arise with the 10. So it consists of the Anya Samana, except Chanda, Piti, and Viriya. So in this way, and different from the I consciousness, at the moment of I consciousness, how many mental factors arise with the I consciousness? So only 7, because the I consciousness is one of the Dripancha Vinyana. So in Dripancha Vinyana, that is the last group of the combination of rootless consciousness. They are only universal factors can arise with the I consciousness. So altogether, in this group, altogether 11 5-dot abiding moment, 11 mentality arise. In this moment, 8 mentality arise. Now you know the different moment have the different group of mentality. And here, all are bhavanga, all types of bhavanga. So the possible way, only 19, but 19 cannot be at the same time. Each one of them can be bhavanga, because same as the bhavanga, same as the patisandhi and death. Okay, so for 5-dot abiding, it is 1. So unconsciousness can be 2 Dripancha Vinyana, and receiving 2, investigating 3. So how many mental factors arise in each moment? Let's see. So for the 5-dot abiding, Chittasika 10 and consciousness 1, in this moment, 11 mentality arise. Then if one of the unconsciousness arise at that moment, 7 Chittasika, so only 8 in the unconsciousness moment. Then at the moment of receiving moment, so 10 mental factors arise. So with the consciousness, 11 mentalities is arising in this group. Then for the investigating moment, the 11 Chittasika arise. So with the consciousness altogether, 12 mentality arise at that moment. Then of 10 Chittasika, because the investigating can be different in the accompanying feeling. So one is accompanied by joy, one is accompanied by, and two are accompanied by equanimity. When this moment, the investigating moment is accompanied by joy, so somanasa santirana, you already know in the rootless consciousness. If the moment is somanasa santirana, 11 Chittasika arise with piti, including piti. If this moment arise, the consciousness accompanied by investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity, only 10, except piti, like this. So it can be a different number. Then for the determining moment, 11 Chittasika arise, except Chanda and Piti, because the determining consciousness, that refers to the mind-dot abiding consciousness, which is accompanied by equanimity. So only 11. Then Javana here, although here mentioned the unwholesome Javana, so if we can replace here wholesome, Javana also not much difference. So Javana, in Javana moment, it can be wholesome chitta or unwholesome chitta. If that is unwholesome, or we need to identify the dosa mula or moha loba mula consciousness, any of the unwholesome consciousness, according to the specific consciousness, the associated mental factor will be different. And for the wholesome also, it's great wholesome or great function of a great wholesome accompanied by joint or accompanied by equanimity, etc. We need to consider, and we need to find out the associated mental factors. And for the registration moment, and so it can be possible 11 registration consciousness. So we will know in every moment how when we study about the function of the consciousness in the chapter 3, and we will have more understanding about the registration and jhana, etc. Okay, now we know the group of mentality can identify associated mental factors and specific consciousness, and also how many mentality can arise in the precise moment of the process of mentality. This is how the mentality arises. So in this way, that is unconsciousness. Similar, there all other the ear consciousness, etc. also very similar understanding. You can have the similar understanding with the unconsciousness. So the other process or mind or process much more easier, because it has the lesser mind consciousness types here. The difference is the mind or abundant. So their mind or abundant, anya samana is a chanda and piti. So at the moment of mind or abundant, it can arise the 11 mental factors, and altogether 12 mental factors can arise at the moment of mind dot abundant, and the other moment are quite easy. Then, so wholesome jhana and functional jhana depends on the consciousness, specific consciousness, and then if you can apply the Sampiyoga Neya and Sangaha Neya in the mental process, that become more interesting and become more clear. The group of mentalities are arising according to the condition, according to their condition in the process. Starting from the unknown point, starting from the unknown point, I mean our samsara, we cannot know when it is started. Then starting from the unknown points, it arises and continuing up to now. Even this time, our mental process is arising, focusing on the Abhidhamma teaching and trying to understand. In that moment, the great wholesome consciousness is arising in your mind as a jhana. And when you are seeing the sacred unconsciousness, unconsciousness consists of the process of unconsciousness, consists of the wholesome jhana arising in your mind. And when you are hearing, when you are listening, my explanation of Abhidhamma teaching at the moment, the ear consciousness, the process of ear consciousness with the wholesome jhana arising in your mind, like this. So this is the general understanding. So if you want to understand clearly, to see, and you need to practice the meditation on the mentality, the object of mentality, and you need to identify in each moment and how many mental factors is arising with the consciousness. So then focusing on seeing the associated mental factors, you can identify what kind of consciousness is there. But the consciousness itself, you cannot identify, because the consciousness have the nature of the characteristic of knowing the object, the same, unwholesome, wholesome, functional, or all the same. in the characteristic. So in order to identify the types of the consciousness, you need to learn about the mental factors in their precise moment. Then you can you can name the consciousness. So this is how the mentalities are arising in their nature in the group according to the condition. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, today's lesson, and we will continue to the Q&A session. So I hope you all will understand the consciousness chapter and mental factor chapters of Abhidhamma Sangha up to now. Okay. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
Okay, Vandami Bante, according to the mind process, it has been said that the last javana becomes the second weakest result of karma. So does this mean that the remaining 5 javanas are the strongest javana among the 7 javanas?
Actually, the past moment is strongest, and the last moment is second, and the 5 javanas, remaining 5 javana in the middle are weakest, because the strongest one can produce its result at that life, in that the same life. So in the present life, it can produce. And 7th javana, the last one, can produce its result in the second life, in the following life. Then the remaining 5 javana can produce their result starting from the third life. Starting from the third life depends on the condition. When they have the condition, the other condition to produce, to give their result, and they can produce their result starting from the third life, and they can follow, they can continue. So the stronger one is the first moment. Okay.
Thank you, Bante. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu. Okay, the question here, having studied the individual characteristics and combinations of chitta, chittasikas, how do one apply this knowledge in one's daily life or during meditation? Thank you.
Okay, this is an interesting question, and how we can apply. So, for example, I'm introducing you to some people in your community, and when you arrive to the new community, and I introduce to the other member of this community. So how you can apply your understanding or your known to others, information of other people, that you can communicate well with them, and you can identify each of them. This one is who and what he is doing or something like that. In the same way, after studying the Abhidhamma, and if we apply in our daily life, so the understanding, the mentality to identify, so that we could understand, we could identify in everyone from the others. So we know this is, so when unwholesome arises, this is unwholesome consciousness, and mostly the prominent part is Chittasika. So when greed arises, this is greed, we know. And when hatred arises in our mind, we know. So that is the understanding. So even the understanding is very useful. We are knowing that my mind is full of unwholesome, or my mind is full of wholesome. Like this, we can understand. Then if we want to change unwholesome to wholesome, and then we need to find the way how to eliminate unwholesome nature of ourselves. And this is the first benefits we can get through the understanding of Chitta and Chittasika in their characteristic of their own. then we can identify themselves. Then during the meditation, you can make sure this is wholesome or this is unwholesome. And also, there's a very useful result in the meditation on mentalities. If you are taking your mentality as your object at that moment, if you already understand, you have already studied and understand their characteristic, and you can identify them. And you are very useful. You cannot get confused. You can easily make decision. This is what. And if you don't know, all the times, whenever you see the nature of mentality in your mind, when you look back your mind and during the meditation, and what is this? All the time, the questions are coming out, and that disrupt you in your meditation process. And if you can identify, oh, this one is what, according to the Abhidhamma knowledge, then this just arises. This is not missing with the others. Separately, it has the specific nature. It has this characteristic, and you can identify, and you can, through the proper understanding, and you can continue your meditation practice as instructed by your meditation teacher. If you don't have that nature, all the time confusion, this is a new one or similar to what then. So this kind of understanding about the consciousness and mental factor clearly is very useful in meditation too. For the daily life, also when the unwholesome nature arises in your mind, and you can recognize that is unwholesome nature, that is unwholesome nature, or that can bring the unpleasant result. So I need to avoid, or I need to remove that nature of mind, developing the wholesome nature in this way, and you can apply. And first of all, the benefit is you can identify yourself, you can identify your mind, so that you can promote your mentality to be better and better. So this is the benefit we can get through the Abhidhamma study.
Thank you, Bhante. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
Good morning, Bhante. My question is in the slide number 6, mostly that you mentioned is all the Cettasika except some some number of the Cettasika. Hold on, let me start up again, because just now I restart the Zoom. Hold on, let me.
Slide number 6.
Okay, example under the
This
Moha delusion.
Okay.
You mentioned that there is 27 mental factors except self.
Mm-hmm.
So I noted that now it seems like have to remember those number of the mental factors, but I don't understand what are the detail of these 27 mental factors inside. When you're showing only except that itself, we can understand that one is to eliminate, does not include. But what are the 26 mental factors? That's where I couldn't find the answer. Can Bhante explain where can I get this information?
Okay, you can get that information in the lesson 25. Lesson 25, there I mentioned the how many mental factors can arise with the unwholesome consciousness. So it is not difficult, you know, the 13 Anya Samana and 13 Anya Samana and 14 unwholesome factors. Two groups become the 27. There in 27, except Moha, it becomes 26.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so 26.
So in the Ajna Samana, the 13,
Right.
so does it specify where can I find the details of these 13 what you call mental factors?
Okay. Yes, this method based on the previous two methods. So former two method of some association method and combination method. After studying several times these two methods, and then you can see this method quite easy. And otherwise, this make you confusion.
I see. Okay, I'll go through with that. Thank you, Sadhu. Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu.
Bhante, if we have less unwholesome cetasika arise, is this impact the result we receive also?
This, you know, if we have less unwholesome cetasika, mean the moment. If we have less movement, the result also less. But we cannot measure the impact of the unwholesome according to the member of cetasika, because the lower have the more number of, in the lower group, more number of the cetasika, but the dosa is very stronger. So depends on the level of unwholesome roots, and the duration of the process, how many times it repeating, and also the action. Sometimes the person get angry, so many times angry and still controlling himself, and he is not committing by verbal or physical action. So it is only the mental action, so manokamma. Then someone cannot control and break off the sila, and verbal action or physical action come to involve that hatred, that dosa. At that moment becomes, you know, the impact becomes stronger. So unwholesome result becomes the larger or the stronger. So that's why we cannot say the less member can produce the less result. We cannot say in that way. So it depends on the situation, or depends on the commitment or repetition, how many times repeating like this.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The cetasika arise and disappear very fast. Do the study of cetasika characteristics and combinations itself are difficult. So to recognize and identify them as they arise would be very difficult, right? Most of the time, one could only realize or recognize it after its happenings or after many mind process. So how can one optimize these understandings? Thank you.
Okay. It's a very good question. Then that is right. The cetasika, according to the nature of mentality, is very fast, very, very fast. So too fast to know. And then we don't need to, we should not forget, we are trying to know by mind. By mind. It's also, the mind is very fast. So if you are trying to follow something very fast by the other visual, very fast, you can catch up. So if you are thinking our normal, ordinary mind, so without practice, one mind is very slow. So our things to know, aware to know, is very, very slow. Then during the meditation, after practicing to accumulate the positive mental factors stronger and stronger, and your awareness and also your skill to identify the mentalities also become faster and faster. Then you know your mind can aware faster than our ordinary daily life process, several times, hundreds times, thousand times, because it arises very fast. And also at the time, at the moment, it has the nature to be able to know the object. So we don't need to worry. The mind is trying to follow, trying to catch up the object of mentality. And that mind itself also mentality. So if someone is driving away by car, if you are following by car, and it's very close to catch up, but not very easy in the present moment to aware the present moment, just aware the groove of mentality at the time. And also, even though the mentality is arising in the groove, considering of the consciousness and some mental factors. And in one moment, if you are focusing on the one mental factors, the characteristic of mental factor is just finished, and then the others gone, all's gone, but you can catch on one, the characteristic, because the consciousness can take one object at a time. So one, for example, the feeling at the moment, and in that group, and the similar group repeating, and then you learn about the sanya, perception, etc. And then you can identify. But it is not necessary to know every mental factors, every members of mentalities in each group. The practice of vipassana meditation, just to identify the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. So it's not necessary to know every mentality whenever they arise. That's why it is also impossible to know everything to know. But every time when you trying to catch up, focusing on the characteristic of each mentalities, and you can recognize one at a time, and sometimes you can aware in the group. Sometimes you can penetrate to the group and then catch up the one in this way. But it can be faster than the normal. A person does not have the practice of meditation in that way, you cannot understand. But I would like to suggest, if you like to know more about how we can know and how faster we can recognize our mentality, and then trying to practice the meditation, trying to apply your understanding in the meditation, then you will understand. So my answer here is that the mind is which trying to know also mentality, which has the very first moment, very first speech. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So we have some other questions. So the question here, can Bhante share with us one useful method to switch from an unwholesome state of mind to a wholesome one so that we may avoid unwholesome chittas and cetasikas arising. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, very good for the application, the Abhidhamma understanding to daily life. First of all, we need to learn to make sure the unwholesome can bring bad result, wholesome can bring good result, and then this understanding must be the underlying of our daily life. It must be background. So with that understanding, we will live in our daily life. Then trying to avoid the unwholesome mental factor arising in our mentality. So when they arise, we need to aware. Otherwise, it continue long times and we don't aware, and then we under the influence of the moha and recklessness or doubt or something like that. And if the awareness is very weak and delusion, moha is strong, we cannot, even when the unwholesome is arising in our mind for 1 hour or 2 hours, we don't know. Then, today's I have so many unwholesome chitta like this later. So it is finished. And so we need to know what kind of consciousness is arising in our mind, wholesome or unwholesome, how I feel, and angry or greed or delusion. Or from the wholesome side also, what types of consciousness, what type of mental factor is prominent in my mind. Like this, so we need to look back our mind again and again, many times. Then, if unwholesome mentalities arising in our mind, that moment, we need to change the condition of the mentality. So the condition, sometimes the objects, we can change the object. When we see something and then angry arise, they change the object. Or if we cannot change the object, we can change the attitude. Getting angry caused by the attitude of dislike. Okay, dislike, reduce the nature of dislike and trying to develop acceptance. So this disruption is not only from his side, from that object. So maybe person or event or something else. And that is not a single cause. My mentality also one of the cause of that unwholesome. We need to understand. Then, if we cannot change the object and if we cannot manage the situation, at least we can manage our emotion or our attitude toward that object. Then we try to change from the way of thinking, accepting more the situation. This is not only his fault. In the past, something happened like this, and considering and the solution to reduce the level of unwholesome. Then thinking about the wholesome, then we can change. We can change many times. The need to practice. Sometimes it is not easy. Not easy. The situation, the other conditions are very strong. Then our attitude, only we can do is changing the attitude. The others are very strong. At that moment, not easy, but still you have a chance to change. Then in many situations, if we can change, and we can change our attitude, and we can be successful to have the wholesome mind instead of unwholesome. For example, if you are walking and something improper way in blocking, so like this, so you can get angry. Who made this? Like this, in normal way, and our nature. If we think this is not suitable or this is not acceptable, we get angry easily. And then the way of thinking must change. So because this is blocking the path. What I can do, what I can have to others, what I can give my service to community or like this. And there's no opportunity for the anger to arouse. In the same way, many cases, when unwholesome arise, not only the situation and object is the cause, our attitude also the cause. So we can keep a good attitude all the time so that to prevent, we can able to prevent unwholesome arising. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bante, we have another 2 questions.
Okay.
Bante, what is the difference between Somanasa and Sukha?
Okay. So Somanasa and Sukha. Somanasa is the mental happiness. The Sukha is physical happiness. Actually, Sukha also the feeling, mentality based on the physical condition. So in the consciousness, you see the Sukha Sahakata is only the body consciousness, only the body consciousness. So it based on the physical body. And Somanasa, it does not need to associate with the physical condition. So only arise in the mentality. So mental joint. Mental joint is the joint only the mentality is Somanasa, and happiness based on the physical condition, physical body is Sukha. So that is the difference. All two, both has the nature of pleasurable feeling. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So the last question, Bante, the question is why conceit and wrong view cannot coexist?
This reason is, the conceit and usually, so they have the different focus, different center. It mentioned that the wrong view, the conceit, okay, conceit center one's, I want to say that one's own nature, but it also mostly based on the wrong view, but cannot arise with together, coexist with wrong view. To know this difference is quite, quite complicated. And the wrong view, first of all, wrong view is taking the view which is not real. So a person is not reality. The reality is mentality and materiality. So we think the group as a person. This is wrong view, and one of the wrong view. Then based on that, centering ourselves, the conceit arise. The wrong view is not centering in that way. So wrong view have different nature to arise. So keeping the unreal and which is not really true, and we create something and then keeping that as a view, that is wrong view. And based on that view, and we center ourselves, and then the conceit arise, we approach something, and based on that view, at that moment, the view no more arising, the conceit is very strong. So in the literature, it mentioned they both have the powerful nature in their own way, Wrong view taking something in wrong way. In that aspect, because this nature is very, very strong, it has no the other nature of trying to be so proud, the conceit. And when the conceit arises also, the nature of the being so proud is very strong. So the nature cannot exist. The nature of wrong view cannot exist at that moment. So this was mentioned in the in the second stage of the Abhidhamma Vibhavini, if we study Abhidhamma Vibhavini, this mention, and also this argument in the Paramattha Tipani, like this. So it is quite complicated, but we in this level, it's okay to just to know they cannot coexist. Then in the second level, we will discuss completely why and how they cannot, and then we can find the specific condition. For now, it is difficult to bring this issue here. Okay, very good question. We need to discuss here in the next level of the when we study Abhidhamma Vibhavini. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So thank you, Bhante, very much for your teachings today. May Bhante lead us in making aspirations and sharing of merits, please.
Okay, let's start our aspiration and sharing merits. Please repeat after me. Imina punya kamena.
Imina punya kamena.
Mame bala samagamo.
Mame bala samagamo.
Sadam samagamo hodu.
Satang samagamo hotu.
Yawa nibbana patiya.
Yava nibbana patiya.
Idame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Asawakaya waham hodu.
Asavakaya vaham hotu.
Idame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Nibbana sapachayo hodu.
Nibbana sapachayo hotu.
Mama punya bhagam.
Mama punya bhagam.
Sabha satanam bhajimi.
Sabha satanam bhajemi.
Te sabbe.
Te sabbe.
Me samam.
Me samam.
Punya bhagam labantu.
Punya bhagam labantu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Thank you, Bhante, and everyone for your time and participation. Till we meet on next Sunday, may all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.